I'm making this video solely because I was prompted to by my higher self, by my guided angels, by my spirit guides, whatever you will. Because I got to a point today where I broke free from the narrative that was placed onto my life against my will. What I mean by that is this. 2013 was my 33rd year of birth, coinciding with Christ's crucifixion, or what you would call Christ consciousness, or the rebirthing year. My birthday was 127. 5 days later, after my 33rd birthday, on February 2nd, 2013, my wife has a seizure because she took an excess amount of tramadol that she had stolen from her job, Dumb Friends League, where basically she was pocketing and bringing home medications from people that their dogs would put down and didn't have any more use for their medication. And tramadol acted like a kind of opiate type high, not really, but that she definitely fell into and ended up taking a fistful. This was over the course of a few months that led up to this, and had a seizure. Now, during the seizure, it scared the shit out of me. I brought her to Rose Medical Center, and the whole way there, we're being told, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. It's probably just a one-off seizure. It's probably just a one-off seizure. Don't worry about it, don't worry about it, blah, 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 blah. They take the x-rays. Doctor comes back, and it's not the one-off like they were saying. It's actually something that they coined as, this is the 1 in a million. And it just so happened to be that this was her 1 in a million. She ended up having a left frontal lobe AVM, arterial venous malformation, that was 4 centimeters wide. My instantaneous question to the doctor was, would this in any way, shape, or form impact her characteristics from what I would initially interact with and get to see to what it's become today? And he looks at me and goes, absolutely. You would see a decline in cognitive function, you would see a decline in motor function, and you would see a huge decline in emotional and cognitive functions, to such an extent that because it was in her left lobe, he said that she would have right arm and right leg paralysis at any given moment. She would have right arm and right leg twitches, jerks of violent nature, which started to explain certain events, like her driving the car and all of a sudden sideswiping 4 parked cars out of the blue, and then coming home and acting like it wasn't a big deal. Like, what the hell happened? I don't know. Just playing it off. Or the event where basically our bedroom was in the basement, so she had to walk down a flight of steps, and I watched her fall like 6-7 times in like a week. It was crazy. Now, in hindsight, I looked up what tramadol does in high doses, and it causes seizures. So I thought the spastic physical symptoms that I was seeing before the seizure was directly correlated to the tramadol. It made sense. And coincidentally, then having the seizure happen and then finding out what she had, then put us in a situation where basically she was faced having to have brain surgery to correct this AVM. Ironically, I've had brain surgery not 10 years prior to that. That was pretty much the exact same brain surgery that she had to have. Only mine was an external trauma-reduced situation that caused multiple subdural hematomas in my prefrontal cortex, my frontal lobes, left and right. I have 2 egg-shaped plates that were removed so that way they could excise the hematomas, and there was substantial gray matter damage in both left and right frontal lobe. But being divinely guided and divinely protected, I walked away from it with zero cognitive loss. If anything, there was a cognitive aspect of gain from it. There was obvious rewiring of mental and memory-based faculties that were now being utilized in a different manner that allowed me to remember and recall information much more distinctively different than the way I used to be able to do it before the accident. Anyway, so 33rd year, 33rd birthday, January 27th. February 2nd, wife has seizure, we find out about the AVM. All of a sudden, this devastating, disgusting, atrocious relationship we called a marriage, all of a sudden calms the fuck down because now all the attention is going on to Christine. Everybody's concerned for her, so she's getting this attention that she craved as a narcissist fucking in full force. Until being divinely protected, like I have been and always will be, God saw the manipulation behind this event and what it was actually meant to do to me by entrapping me into this false narrative of believing that now I have an excuse to forgive her for all the shit that she put me through for 9 years by saying this AVM is what caused it. So I can forgive her now. I'm all good. I can love my wife again. Everything will be fucking perfect. No. God saw this and said, fuck that. Bring in the big guns. And lo and behold, 6 months later, I diagnosed myself with leukemia after for about a month and a half accumulating. Initially 1% of my body was a bruise to the aspect of my diagnosis was about 40 to 45% of my body was entirely black and blue. A friend of mine came over and he was the only one, even though I lived in a house with 5 other people at the time. 5 other, my wife made 6, I was number 7. So there were 7 people that lived in a 5-bedroom house. A friend of mine that didn't even live in the house came over and said, dude, like, is your wife beating you in your sleep, man? What the hell's going on? And I was like, bro, I don't know. Because I was so focused on my wife, I didn't give 2 fucks about my own health. I mean, picture that, you know? And his sincere concern kind of triggered a, hold on, oh shit, dude, wait, this is actually pretty fucking bad. Let me go give this some attention and I'll be right back. And in the middle of him being at my house, I left him alone upstairs and went downstairs and looked up 20 minutes worth of looking up research. And I was very quickly met with 2 answers, 2 options. Flesh-eating bacteria or some form of leukemia. It really wasn't that difficult for me to deduce from these 2 obvious potentials which one it was that I had, because the one option represented an external aspect of origin, and the other one was from an inner aspect of origin. So one was a trauma, one was an external brought onto me, and the other one was from internal coming out. And the way I deduced very quickly that I had leukemia was, what's the top 3 causes for leukemia? First one was radiation. That was a big check. During my brain surgery 10 years before leukemia, I must have gotten irradiated 30 times with my head, with and without contrast. So big check. Second one was butane inhalation or skin contact with, yes, I was doing concentrates for cannabis, and unknowingly to me that this had this kind of impact, I definitely had a check on that one. And the third one was stress. So I'm pretty sure that the 3 walloping checks was enough for me to go, holy shit, I have leukemia. To go upstairs and to confront my friend while my wife and best friend, brother, were also there, and say to them, oh my God, I have leukemia, I have to go to the hospital. The 2 closest people in my life, my brother and my wife, ridiculed me, laughed at me, said, "Oh my God, Spiro's on one. There it goes again, going crazy. Spiro, relax, stop being stupid." All this crazy bullshit to have me believe this false narrative of my own truth, to the point where I'm so dumbfounded and disconnected from the situation at the same time that Curtis kind of shocks me back and says, "Spiro, what do you want to do? Whatever you want, I got you." I go, "Bro, I'm going to the hospital." I grab the keys. 3 o'clock in the morning, I drive myself to Rose Medical Center. Now, mind you, if they didn't believe me, then why the fuck did they hop in the car with me? If they thought I was crazy and out of their mind, then why the fuck did they come with me? Because my brother and my wife came with Curtis to the hospital. 3 o'clock in the morning, I am met with a waiting room that's packed, and I'm trying to tell the nurses, "Hey nurses, like I have leukemia, I have bruises all over my body, I need to get blood work." And none of them are paying attention. None of them are even giving me the time of day. They're just doing their own shit, kind of doing their own process and going back and forth, and they end up checking my vitals, and something sets off an alarm because my heart BPM was fucking through the roof. But it was through the roof for another reason that you'll find out later. So my heart BPM being through the roof, they thought I was having a heart attack. And they quickly bypassed everybody in the waiting room. I got my own room, and I'm waiting for the doctor to come in to tell me, "Okay, we need to give you an x-ray, chest x-ray." I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about? I got leukemia. I don't need any more radiation. I'm not giving you permission for a chest x-ray." Doc's like, "I can't fucking deal with this shit today," and then just walks out. That was his reaction. I'm like, "Okay." A nurse then comes inside and tells me, "Okay, we have you scheduled for a chest x-ray." I was like, "No, I didn't sign for a chest x-ray. I'm not taking a chest x-ray. I need my blood work checked. I have leukemia." Then she kind of goes out in her own kind of huffy puffy way, like I'm trying to tell her what to do with her business. She leaves. Then the then the third doctor comes in, and the third doctor is the head of the ER on call that day. At this point, I'm so livid that nobody's listening to me, and in fact, I was even told by one of the doctors, WebMD isn't a good source of being able to diagnose yourself. You kind of need decades worth of schooling to be able to do that, if I recall correctly what I was told. So then the head of the ER comes inside, and then this time I took a preemptive approach and said, "Before you say anything, let me just state this. I will not take any chest x-ray unless my blood is taken. So if you're not willing to take my blood, then sign me the hell out, AMA, and I will go to the hospital that will find what I'm saying valid and do so." He says, "How about I do you a favor? How about you take the chest x-ray and I give you the blood work?" I had a barter with this fucking doctor, even though I'm showing it to him, showing the bruises, telling him, "Look, man, if you press on the bruise, it's supposed to flush if it's an external bruise that was done onto you traumatically. But if it's internal bleeding, there will be no flushing. So 1, 2, 3, you see how there's no flushing? It's internal bleeding. I've had brain surgery, I've had radiation, I've had all 3 markers for this. What's so difficult to understand?" And I ended up having to fucking deal and agree to the chest x-ray in order to get the blood work. Okay? I had to bend my will knowing that I'm about to radiate myself with a condition that is literally caused by radiation. So I went there with a really fucking heavy heart, got the chest x-ray. It came back completely clear. The doctor, the guy who was reading the fucking thing said, "Bro, you have the heart of a fucking runner, a marathon runner. You're fucking in great shape, so I don't know what's going on." The blood work took a little while longer because they were fucking dragging their legs. 30 minutes later, the head of the ER comes in, comes through the door, and I'll never forget this. I'm in bed, facing this way. The doctor came in from my right. He opens the door. He has a folder in his hand, grabs the chair, and instead of lifting it up, drags the chair right in front of my bed. So now he's facing me just like I'm facing you on the screen. And to my left is Mo, Larry, and Curtis. And I call Mo Larry because Mo Larry is my wife and my brother. He puts on this whole fucking spiel, dude. He's got his glasses. He opens up the folder. He's sitting down, moves a couple of papers, lifts his glasses up, closes the folder, and says, "Mr. Skelis, you have leukemia." My initial reaction was, "Ha! I fucking told you." Because nobody else wanted to believe me except for Curtis. They're dumbfounded with their mouths open, as they should be, witnessing what it was that I just did, understanding the full depth of what just happened. Because what I forgot, what I purposefully chose not to tell you from the beginning, was something that would have potentially tainted your perspective of the situation. Curtis, my friend, was actually Curtis, my drug dealer, and I had been awake for 3 days on methamphetamines. Not one doctor perceived any form of drug use at all during my interactions and my conversations with all of them. Not one nurse, doctor, this or that perceived any sense of somebody being awake for 3 days on a stimulant. Not one. To such an extent that when I was told what I had, I was like, "Okay, thank you for the information. I'm going AMA because I want to go home and get some rest." And the doctor comes up to me and goes, "You don't understand, son. You're not going to make it through the night. You're going to die if you don't start treatment right this second." I've always had a problem with authority and people telling me what to believe, especially when my instincts are telling me quite otherwise. So I kind of laughed it off and said, "I'm going AMA." And he's like, "I can't let you leave the hospital." And I kicked out all 3 of them and I said, "Get out." They left, closed the door. And I was like, "Tell me again how I can't leave the hospital because you say so." He's like, "I can't let you leave." Well, that's awesome, but I can still go AMA and there's nothing you can fucking do to stop me. He's like, "You're not going to fucking survive. You're going to fucking die, blah, 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 blah." And I'm sitting here reading his sincerity and what he thought he believed was true, to then figure out, oh shit, this has to do with my BPM, doesn't it? My heart, this is why he wanted the chest x-ray. Now I understand. I go, so this is all about my heart. He goes, "Yeah, your numbers are so off the charts that you're going to have a heart attack. Your blood is like sludge and it's not pumping correctly. So your heart is having a hard time fucking circulating the blood." I was like, "That's fucking funny, dude." I was like, because if you would have checked the CBC blood panel, you would have seen very evidently the obvious use of methamphetamines for at least the last 2 days. I've been awake for 3 days straight. My BPM is this high because of the meth use, not because of my leukemia. And I'm going AMA whether you like it or not. He tries grabbing me one last time and he tells me in my face, "You're going to die." And I say, "Okay, you're telling me I will not survive a 24-hour period unless I start this medication now?" He says, "Yes." "So you're telling me I won't survive a 12-hour period if I don't start this medication right now?" "Yes." "So you're basically telling me that I'm going to die within the next 12 to 24 hours?" He said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, if I go home and I rest because I need to fucking come to some kind of baseline off of this high that I'm on to be able to truly digest what just happened. If I'm meant to die, then I'm meant to die. But if I'm not, then I'll still be here tomorrow and I'll come in and take whatever, setup you put me through, whatever course of action you want me to take." He cautioned me one more time. I say, "Stop fucking trying to get me to believe what you're trying to tell me. I already explained everything to you. You're having the problem of not understanding where I'm coming from. And on top of which, it's been almost 45 fucking minutes since you told me I had leukemia, and you're the same motherfucker that laughed at me when I said I have leukemia. And you haven't even bothered to fucking correct that, have you? You, the nurse, or the other doctors. Why the fuck would I listen to a person that doesn't even have the common decency to admit when they were wrong? But I should believe what you're saying as truth because you're a fucking white lab coat doctor that's running the ER who just got out-diagnosed by a meth head. Go figure that one." So that pretty much stopped him dead in his tracks. I went home. And I was scared shitless, you know. I needed to get off the drugs. I wanted to come to a level space. And when I did come to a level space, I was so fucking terrified. I didn't want to go to the hospital. And of course, nobody in my house cared enough about me to actually push me to go to the hospital, because my wife's intentions overall was always to watch me destroy myself, never to actually grow and become something better. She always supported the destructive, self-destructive narrative that was upon me at that time. During this period of time, I think in June is when I was diagnosed. When I diagnosed myself, July is when I went back to the hospital and had an emergency splenectomy, because I stayed home for a month after this diagnosis, and my spleen ended up rupturing, causing me to black out. I hit my head on the stove, causing a left orbital maxillary fracture, which was pretty fucking bad. And again, Curtis, my drug dealer, who was the initial reason why I even diagnosed myself, who then happened to be the person who found me on the floor collapsed, just coincidentally because he was in the neighborhood, stopped by to say hi, and was looking through the window and saw my lifeless body on the floor, climbed through the window and brought me to the hospital. Okay? So before people start passing judgment on my drug dealer, this guy was the reason why I knew what I knew, was the reason why I found out what I found out, and also saved me when he saw me on the floor. I come out of it, my spleen is missing, I'm literally cut from pelvic bone to breastplate. Seriously, just sliced open. Spleen's removed, and now it's the end of July, and I've got like a couple of weeks recovery. And during my time in the hospital, a few things happen. My wife starts to go psychotic, and I mean psychotic, legitimately psychotic, attacking me after my diagnosis, after my splenectomy. She was physically removed from both hospitals, Rose Medical Center and University Hospital, by the nurse staff on their own accord, because of how she was fucking going after me mentally, verbally, and almost physically. They physically had to remove her twice because of her demeanor and just her aggressive attacking me. And the reason why she was like that makes a lot of sense seeing it now, what it was back then. She was a narcissist that preyed on the weak, and seeing the most masculine version of her empath fuel in the most vulnerable state of having a terminal condition be diagnosed upon him, she just attacked and wouldn't stop attacking until I was done. I'll never forget the nurse talking to me when I left Rose Medical Center, and she's going like, listen, I've never said this to anybody in my entire life as a charge nurse. This is how incredibly intense this is what I'm about to say. You need to decide whether you want to live or you want to die by her side, because you can't do both. I'll never forget that burning into my fucking mind. Why would she tell me that? Why would she tell me that? Why would she tell me that? August, September, October, November, shit just got worse and worse and worse and fucking worse. And I was using methamphetamines recreationally prior to this, but after this event, it just became a way to escape. I mean, I would wake up realizing that I'm dying, that my wife's got this condition, she's facing horrible shit, and then on top of that, having a psychotic wife that's going nuts on me, and I'm blaming it away because of her AVM. So I'm not putting any of this on her. I'm literally just excusing these atrocious acts of depraved, disgusting nature from a spouse that you love. to then see her during August, September, October, November decline mentally. See her cognitive faculties just fucking start to unravel. See her motor functions start to unravel. She started to have right-sided issues, either unforeseen jerks or straight up just numbness. She would go like straight up numb, couldn't feel it, paralyzed, and thus would fall a lot. So like these 4 months after her diagnosis, she fell all the fucking time. She got into car accidents where she would sideswipe cars because her right side would jerk and she would pull the steering wheel and she sideswiped 4 cars. She was seen repeatedly falling down flights of stairs where she would take 1 or 2 steps and so she had bruises all over her because of this. Okay, I mean it was symptomatic of her condition. It got so bad that I couldn't sleep with her anymore, and I made her go sleep in the spare bedroom next to mine, telling her that if she didn't, I didn't know. Like I had to go really hard to get her to do this. I'm like, dude, if you don't fucking leave this room right now, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm gonna kill myself right in front of you. And for her to sit there and kind of postulate what I just offered, and for her to finally get up and go and stay in that room, and to give me the first week of separate, detached, restful nights, where on the 7th day I was able to actually come to some fucking profound understanding that this woman's trying to fucking kill me. And to say to myself, well, Spiro, you're met with 2 options now, man. Either you stay loyal to your wife because that's what you were taught from your father to do, or you do something so profoundly different as to go against everybody in your ancestor line. And that was to say to yourself, for the first time, I need to put myself first before her, because I don't want to die. And if I don't do this, I'm going to die. So I chose myself. For the first time in 9 years, for the first time in my entire life, 33 years, I chose for the first time to do something to benefit me and keeping me alive and on this planet. So I go into the room next door. One of the roommates was also living down there, so it was me, Christina in the spare bedroom, and Dave Bodensteiner, which was in the other room. His door was open. He was right there. He heard this whole conversation. Like he was witness to it. I saw it. I made eye contact with him. He sat in the doorway watching. I said, Kelsey. Sorry. I said, Christine. I love you. These were the last words I said to my wife. I said, Christine, I love you. I'm not happy anymore. I think we should get a divorce. I proceeded to walk up to her, give her a hug, kissed her on the forehead, took a step back, waiting to see if she would say anything, and she was just a blank fucking body at that point. I took it that nothing was going to be said. I turned around, made eye contact with Dave. Dave kind of gave me a head nod, and I walked back into my bedroom. Those are the last words I said to my wife. That day, unbeknownst to me, she was acting a little weird during the daytime, locking herself in the bathroom and blasting the music as if to try to conceal something that she was doing by the sound alone, as if I would know what she was doing by blasting music and what she was actually doing. I ended up finding out that she had taken a pregnancy test that day, and she had found out she was pregnant yet again with another man's baby. It was the same guy that she got pregnant from the first one. In my mind, she was fearing what I would do if I found out, which the first time that I found out that she was cheating on me, she got pregnant by somebody else's child, I did nothing but leave her at the OBGYN. I walked 6 miles back home, cleared my head, and told her, whatever the fuck you choose to do it, and get it the fuck done. I don't want to know anything about it. Unless you choose something else, then pack your stuff up and get the fuck out. So she opted for the abortion. And it turns out that she continued to see him behind my back anyway. I had no idea about this pregnancy test. I found this out later down the road after roommates of mine then started filling in certain blanks of what they came across after what happened 12 hours after I told her I love her and I don't want to be with her anymore. She left 5:45 a.m. to go to work, going to Dumb Friends League, going to do rounds. I got up to try to catch her on the way out to say goodbye to her, because even though I wanted a divorce, I didn't stop loving her. I didn't stop caring about her. So I caught her while she was like halfway close to the car. I said, bye, Christine, and she just kind of turned around and just kind of jetted to the car. 12 hours later, at 5:45 p.m., when I'm expecting her to be home in about 15 minutes, I'm in the basement, and there is Dave and Chris are at the house at this time, nobody else. At 5:45, in my bedroom, I hear crash, windows breaking, doors broken open. I see a crowbar come through the window in my basement bedroom, and somebody screaming, get on the fucking ground, get on the fucking ground. I hear boof, first flashbang, boof, second flashbang, and I'm fucking out of my mind, scared at this moment. I have no idea what's going on. And then the third flashbang, boom, the door blows open with this flashbang. 3 fucking hooded guys coming in with ARs pointing at me. Get on the fucking ground, get on the fucking ground, get on the fucking ground. 2 other tactical team members were upstairs. One was going after Chris. Chris put up a fight. Fucking got hit in the face with the butt of a gun. And Dave Bodensteiner was getting chained, hooked up, and brought upstairs. And all these guys were hooded, masked, couldn't say anything. He said DEA, what the fuck it said. And at no point in time did I think anything other than the fact that, oh, I'm getting fucking arrested again for my cannabis plants, which I had already gone to court, fought, and won, because I had brain surgery, so I had every right to grow 50 plus plants. And I'm sitting there next to Chris, and I'm shackled up, and Chris is there, and Dave is on the other side. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? He's like, well, the cop came in and put up a fucking fight and just fucking butted me with the gun. And he's like, I started swinging at him. And he's like, they had to get more help to get me. He's like, I'm not going down with a fight. So I start laughing at that. And I'm sitting there kind of playing it smooth because I'm thinking this is a cannabis arrest. I've got 50 plants in the other room. I've got my grow set up. I've already been through this. I know what to expect. These guys fucked up big. So one of the team guys, was like, why the fuck are you smiling for? Well, you know how much fucking trouble you're in? I was like, probably nothing, since I've already been through this with the plants, and there's nothing I have to worry about. He's like, bro, you have like about 100 plants in here. I was like, yeah, I have 98 to be exact, and there's nothing wrong with that count. He's like, you do understand that's a federal offense. I was like, you do understand that's bullshit. So I'm arguing with this guy, not telling me anything past just the plants. So for all intents and purposes, I'm getting arrested for the plants. I get taken in. My dog, one of my dogs, runs out, fearful, ridiculous fucking situation, and 2 of my dogs actually run outside. It was the coldest day of the year of 2013. It was December the 3rd or 5th, December 5th. It was the coldest day of the year, negative something, and 2 puppies ran outside, and one made it because he had the understanding, he had the intuitive to go under the car's engine that had been running, so that we could stay somewhat warm, and was found the next day. But Dula literally translates into spirit in Greek. She died. She died because of this event. They killed my dog because of the situation. And now I'm being brought to jail. Upon going to Denver, downtown, I start calling my wife because I'm like, shit, I gotta tell her what the fuck's going on. She's probably gonna be scared shitless. I'm calling her for like a half hour, 45 minutes, until an officer, a woman, CO, comes up and says, are you Mrs. Skellis? I said, yeah. She's like, stop calling the victim. I'm like, excuse me? The victim? What are you talking about? What happened with my wife? Is she okay? She's like, you know damn well what happened to your wife. Stop calling the victim. I'm like, I don't understand what you're talking about. How is she a victim? What happened to her? Is she okay? She's like, do you know what you're here for? I'm like, yeah, for my cannabis plants. I'm something with the cannabis charge. She's like, there's no cannabis charge on the charges here. She's like, but you are here for 6 charges having to do with domestic violence, ranging from F4, no, at 2 F5s and 4 misdemeanors. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? She's like, you have been repeatedly abusing your wife and whatever the hell else she said. And when she said that, I know she saw this because my blood drained from my body, realizing that my wife was the reason why I was in jail. And you can't fake that kind of reaction. And her having been in the fucking force for however long saw that, took a step back and said, are you okay? And I said, do I look like I'm okay? You're fucking telling me my wife threw me in jail and you're telling me that right now what the charges are? And she's like, yeah, and she then proceeds to apologize, like sincerely apologizing, seeing the sincere reaction that I gave, knowing from that alone that I was not supposed to be there. Now, I've been diagnosed with a terminal condition that they gave me 3 to 5 years. It's been months since I just had my splenectomy done, and I still have stitches, staples on my stomach, literally cut breastbone to pelvic bone. I have an immunosuppressive diagnosis and find myself in jail with a high likelihood of contracting something. I'm trying to articulate to all the CEOs like, dude, you gotta get my medication, I need my medication, blah, 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 and expressing my situation, my condition. And not one of them giving a fuck about my situation. It took me 12 days to get medication that was sitting on the fucking captain's desk waiting for approval because it was a trial phase medication that wasn't yet registered to the fucking public because I was in a fucking trial phase. And my leukemia sat there on the desk for 12 fucking days. Upon being put forth in front of the judge, given I had 0 criminal background, period, not even as much as a fucking parking ticket, nothing. No violation, no previous 911 calls, absolutely clean, pristine record. I'm brought before the judge for arraignment, and a person that was just before me who had gotten caught with 2 pounds of methamphetamine was allowed a, a PR bond. And I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm sitting pretty. I'm gonna get out today, okay? This hell's gonna be over. And I get put forth in front of the judge. And to tell you that I did a double take when he said what my bail was, $50,000 for a clean record, no priors, no nothing, and I was under a hearsay charge with what she used as evidence, her bruises, that I could easily explain away given her fucking physical brain condition, and I could explain why her bruises were only on one side of her body and weren't spread throughout her entire body, as if she said, he just beat me on the right side, because he liked to focus on just the right side of my body, but wouldn't want to listen to any of it at all. So a drug dealer, 2 pounds of meth, walks out in a PR. A guy with no background, no criminal record, no priors, nothing, with a literal hearsay set of charges that, mind you, I'll get into the details after this. And I get $50,000 bond. My heart sinks. I'm in my head going, holy shit, dude. I'm facing 2 felony 5 charges and 4 misdemeanors. The charges, just so you understand, none of them were from the date of her bruises being taken as pictures as evidence. So she had her condition that caused her the problems with her motor function and had bruises from that. Her bruises from that is what the cops took as evidence, which then, for some reason, I don't know how they fucking took a leap of faith to this, correlated to the 6 charges that she put forth on me that were ranging from like 6 months ago as the earliest charge to 7 fucking years ago as a charge, with zero evidence, zero proof, zero witnesses, zero dick. 3 of the charges of the misdemeanors I could prove were impossible to happen because of the time frame that she said this shit happened. I had people that were living in the house that I could prove were living in the house when I wasn't living in the house, where she said that it happened in the house. Okay, and events that just never fucking added up at all. Her evidence was 2 handwritten notes from 2 employees from Dumb Friendly that wrote, and I quote, Mr. Skelis has exhibited multiple times erratic behavior and has caused disruptions at her job, literally pertaining to Christine specifically, because he would come in and he would be all pissed off that something happened and he would just start fighting with Christine at work. Which the truth was, what they were referencing to but completely and absolutely lying about, and that I could have proved via cameras and the police that were there, was the event in which, on 2 different occasions, after losing my closest puppy, my dog, Daisy, who was the love of my life, to a condition that was called preeclampsia that I learned about after she passed away, and learned what I could have done to avoid that. And then stumbling upon this revelation of dogs not needing to eat kibble, and that's a bullshit fucking lie that's made up to make dogs get sick, yada yada yada. Had I put her on a simple raw diet of some chicken and some fucking leg bones and some heart meat, she would have been completely fine during the birthing process, and I wouldn't have lost the most important creature in my life. Needless to say, that set a fire under my ass when I found out about the raw diet and how dogs are, yes, omnivores, but they thrive on a raw diet and they just survive on kibble. So the first place I wanted to go to was Christine's boss at the Dumb Brensley, the same doctor who looked me in the face and said Sign's diet is the best dog food to give them. And now I wanted to find out what he was going to say if I asked him, hey, doc, what do you feed your dogs? And this is how the conversation started. I went there to go pick up my wife. I saw him. I seized the opportunity. My wife cringed knowing what I was going to do. And I said, fuck that. I said, hey, doc, remember when you sat there and you told me how great Sign's diet was? He's like, yeah. It's like, how's it working out for you? It's like, not too well. You know, my dog died because of preeclampsia. He's like, oh, that's a shame. It's like, it is a shame. It's a shame because had she been on a raw diet, none of this would have happened and she would have survived the pregnancy. But because I had somebody tell me that it was the perfect diet, she died of preeclampsia. Isn't that a little ironic, huh? Wasn't it you that offered? Hey, doc, by the way, what do you feed your dogs? I never got to ask you that. He said, oh, you know, I feed them when I feed them. What do you feed them exactly? And he would just give me the runaround over and over and over. He would not answer, yes, I do this, or no, I don't do that. So I said, doc, do you feed your dogs Sign's diet? He evaded the question. Doc, do you feed your dogs raw? He evaded the question. Do you know that if a dog is fed raw, that it actually has a much greater fucking health reaction and response overall in every conceivable manner than if you fed him fucking kibble? No reaction. And now I started to see that he was getting annoyed because I wouldn't get the hint. So when somebody's trying to throw back at me an emotional discernment because I seem to be pushing on something they don't want to answer, that's when I go full blown. So I go, one last time, Doc. I'm giving you an opportunity here just to man. You don't have to say it out loud. You just say it to me. Do you feed your dogs raw so I can know that this is true? Like, you guys really do just push the science out because it's the sponsor that sponsors this Dumb Friends League, and that's why you happen to push Dumb, Science Side. If it was Purina, you would push Purina. Dude, just tell me and it'll be done with. I just want to hear it so I can understand that I'm fucking not crazy. And he's like, if you don't fucking stop, I'm calling the police and having you escorted off premises for disturbing the peace. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, really? All right, time to change tactics. So I turned around and walked away from him and faced the people that were in the room, in the waiting room. And I sat there and started to preach. I said, hey, you all feed your dog kibble, right? Well, did you know that if you feed kibble, it's cooked and yada, 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 yada. And that your dogs will fucking die from this. You want to know how you know this? Because look, you feed them kibble, their teeth rot. You feed them kibble, they take fucking massive shits. You feed them kibble, and their fucking breath and everything about their excretions are odorous. You feed them kibble, and here's where I got them. This is where I actually hooked them, and the doc knew that. I was like, how about any one of you in this waiting room right now, and dare any employee too, to tell me the one time they saw a dog live its life, and on the day it was supposed to die, got up, walked away, walked out into the backyard, and walked next to the person, fell asleep, and then didn't wake up. You tell me one dog that you know that hasn't been euthanized since you've known dogs, and that's when ding 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 ding, and the dog went full fire. That's it. Call the police. You're done. You're getting escorted. I'm not taking this anymore. And I was like, you see, the second I bring up the whole euthanize shit, it starts to fucking, you start to ask questions, right? Like, if wolves were known to walk off and die because they knew it was their time, why the hell don't dogs do that? Why do dogs get euthanized? Because we're putting them out of their misery. Why are they in misery? For some reason, we're not told why, but the misery that they're in is because of the shitty ass food that we'd be feeding them. I mean, think of it this way: the dog is a fucking carnivore, just like we are. If we're omnivores and they are omnivores, if I put you on a kibble diet, do you think you would fucking survive that long? No. Why do you think it correlates to the fucking uprise of uh, how are they called? Wow, veterinarians correlate the rise in veterinarians practicing correlated to the increased rise of dog food being distributed and sold. You can't have that kind of correlation and not go, wait a sec, what's going on here? Then to realize that every brand of dog food, every single one, has had multiple recalls of some crazy ass shit that was done to the food. They have zero care for the animal that you love. So now I'm livid. He called the cops. Man, fuck you. I'm actually making sense here. And I decide not to leave. I'm like, fuck this. If I'm going to jail, I'm going to jail all the way. 10 minutes later, I see the cops parking through the door. And I'm like, okay, they're coming. Preaching, like, please educate yourself. If you love your animals, please educate yourself. I lost a pet. I'm doing this out of a grieving sense of losing my fucking love that I loved so much, that did so much for me in my life, and for me to repay her this way was so shitty. And to realize what truth I could have applied to changing her life, it really shook me. And for a lot of people to make connections, to see the sincerity in which what I was saying, and to stay in the center of the waiting room, and to see the two officers coming in and coming through the first door. And when they came through the first door, that was when I was like, fuck it, let me get on my knees. I got on my hands and knees, faced the cops with my hands like this, knowing they were coming in. They came through the second door and put their hands on their guns, and one officer took it out and said, don't move. I was like, officer, I have no weapons. Officer, I have no intent. I have nothing to fucking concern you as a threat. What is going on here? If I could explain myself real quick, I'll let you know exactly what's going on here, and then you do what you want to do. And then proceeded to tell him that I approached the doctor about my dog situation, about how this was fucking fucked, how I knew this information was this, and I just wanted to hear that motherfucker tell me the damn truth. And for the for the one with the gun out, for him to put his gun away and holster and say, "Get up," and for him to say, "Put your hands down," and for him to say, "You're seriously telling me you're here because your dog died. You found out that you were lied to about kibble and how you should have been feeding your dog raw food, and she got preeclampsia and she died because of complications to the pregnancy, and you wanted this doctor to admit it. That's why you're here." And then he proceeded to look at the people and he said, "That's what he's been here for?" And they all said, "Yeah." And he said, "Let me tell you how absolutely right you are for what you believe in right now. You ask any police officer in the canine unit what they feed their dog, and they will emphatically tell you a raw diet is the only diet to feed your dog. Follow me now." And I'm just blown the fuck away at his choice to justify me right then and there, but without being a dick to the doctor, to the vet. Sit there, absolutely fucking right. Canine units do this. You're absolutely right. They push because it's their sponsor. Just affirming everything that I said, and didn't have any need to turn around and say, "I told you." I told you. Just being seen and heard and validated by an officer that saw the sincere loss in this man's fucking face and the sincere desire to express some form of impact from this loss. And he gave it to me. And he walked me outside. And he said, "Son, there are times and places to do these kinds of things. And obviously you thought this was the time and the place, and it wasn't. But at the same time, I felt compelled to be very honest with you, even though I knew 100%, he tells me, that doctor knew exactly what the fuck you were talking about. That doctor knew exactly what he could have done to de-escalate you by admitting a certain truth and chose not to. And he's the reason why you found yourself where you were. And that's the only reason why I opened my mouth and validated your claims, because you were coming from a place of sincere, non-violent truth seeking that was just not validated. So, you're not wrong. You're absolutely right. Here is a website for you to go look up that pertains to canine police units and how they feed their dogs and why. And it'll make complete sense to you. And this isn't new news. Like, we've known about this forever. We're not even allowed to go around telling people how we feed our dogs. Just understand that. Because if I was in the canine unit, I would not be able to divulge the information I just told you. I can divulge it because I'm a third-party observer that has seen canine unit situations where he knows from first-hand experience, seeing how they feed their dog. And he's like, it doesn't even go there. Dude, go into the Army. Any form of authority that has a dog as a partner, they will clearly express to you what it is that they do with their dog and why. How it is that they won't go any other direction and what reason they do that for. So I got validated for that situation. And because of that situation, those two women decided to grossly misinterpret and misrepresent my actions that day as something against my wife, when in actuality it was on tape, on film, and documented by police officers that were on call as what was really happening. So the two letters from the two employees that supposedly were damning evidence to my ill intent to my wife were nothing more than misrepresented stupidities of an event that actually was nothing but a altruistic, sincere, truth-seeking situation that had nothing to do with my wife, and was resolved peacefully by the officers with the notation of saying that everything had been done to me that put me into that situation. So I have my wife with 6 charges with no proof of any of the specific charges. They took pictures of her bruising that day, which was the morning or afternoon of December 5th. Meanwhile, she had fallen multiple times and gotten into multiple accidents within the month leading up to that day that I could have proven, that had multiple witnesses. I could have proven everything, even the doctor. They took the pictures, they listened to her story, and from that amassed that I was such a notorious monster that needed to be absolutely stopped, that warranted a no-knock warrant within 24 hours or less from my wife making these claims, to no fucking sense of finding out how true her claims were, other than seeing her bruises and listening to her beautiful fucking story that she put on. Breaking into my house, destroying everything in that house, every window, every door, killing my dog, ripping me from my home, and proceeding to throw my ass in jail. All because of what she said, with zero evidence. If I had not had cancer, if I had not been in a mental state of I'm going to die, I just got diagnosed with a terminal condition, I could have beat this case with a fucking monkey that had half a brain and half a testicle. That's how easy this case would have been to beat, and I can prove it to you because of what they did. 2 felonies. Number 5, aggravated assault with a weapon. 4 misdemeanors ranging from aggravated assault, threatening, even endangering my dogs by kicking them and hurting them. The DA says to me, bro, you fucked. Like, you're screwed. This is not looking pretty for you. And I'm talking to my lawyer, and my lawyer is sitting there going, look, I'm going to try to get you a deal to get you the best situation. Given what you're going through, you should be able to kind of get some form of leniency, and you should be good. So she's reassuring me that everything's going to be okay. The DA is laughing at me going, bro, you're fucked. And I'm in my own world going, I'm going to die, so I have no idea what's going on. 6 charges, totaling about 20 plus years if I got found guilty, were all of a sudden brought down to one plea deal that was, if you plead guilty to 1 misdemeanor, 3rd-degree assault, you'll make everything else go away, and you'll only be facing up to 2 years. That should have been my telltale warning sign. Bro, they got nothing on you. That's why they're trying to make it out like they're doing you a favor. And my fucking public defender was drunk as fuck, and a dumbass cunt that didn't know from her ass from her face convinces me to take the deal because, and I quote, you have no prior record, you have no criminal record, you have no priors in anything, you have a terminal condition, and there's no reason why you shouldn't get time served and get the fuck out of here. So I'm sitting here going, okay, this is going to be the fastest way out for me. So I'm not thinking anything other than get the fuck out of jail. I'm already 3 months in here, and it's fucking hell. 3 months, okay, I'm going to get time served. Okay, so if I just admit to this one fucking misdemeanor and plead guilty, then, it'll be 2 years that I'm facing, but everybody told me just time served is what I was looking at. I pled guilty. Then my public defender says you should write a note of apology admitting that you did hit her, but that you felt sorry for it. So basically she was telling me to be completely and absolutely deceitful to who I really was and what actually really happened. So of course when I read this fucking stupid confession, it didn't resonate at all with anybody because I was lying out of my ass, admitting I did something that I didn't do. But I will never forget this. When it was my turn to talk about where I was coming from and what happened, something incredible happened that I can prove if we got the tapes for the hearing. When I started talking, we went from a noisy ass, barely could hear what was going on, people talking, bustling, 50 different lawyers, 50 different cases, shit going everywhere, to then a calming aspect of people listening to what I was saying and where I was coming from and what my background was, to never forgetting seeing the area of all these different lawyers that were there, one by one, stopping what they were doing and making eye contact with me, listening to my story and going stone cold, listening to what I was saying I had been through and what I experienced and what I was currently going through. And then on top of that, this. By the end of my story and my background, everybody in the entire courtroom was stone cold silent. Everybody's eyes were on me, including the judge and my wife and her mother, listening to the sincerity in my voice with every event that I had unfolded, having gone through, bringing me to this point. Judge heard me. Judge then went to her and said, "Speak." And her mother said, and I quote, "I love him like a son, but I'm afraid he's going to murder my entire family." This is what I had to hear this woman say. "I love him like a son, but I'm afraid he's going to murder my entire family." And then hear my wife just destroy my name and anything that I actually was by just blatantly lying and using the one thing that clenched it for her was being able to say that because my father created a murder-suicide situation in my past, that because of this event that had nothing to do with me personally, was my father doing this to my mother separate from me, was the reason to warrant the fear that she and her mother felt for their family, and me retaliating in some manner because some reason she now took on the persona of being the one wanting to leave, not me. It wasn't me wanting to get a divorce anymore. It was her asking me for a divorce and me go nuts, not letting her, even though I had a witness that heard the conversation. Needless to say, I was wrongfully imprisoned. There's no doubt about that. I know I had to be in prison because there were events that happened in prison that I was supposed to be a part of, so I accept why I was supposed to be there. But I make this video today for anyone who comes across it, who listens to it, who hears my story, who believes the narration of what I'm telling you, that literally none of her charges held up, period. I shouldn't have even gone to that process of being made to plead out because everything was hearsay. She didn't even reach the mandatory necessity for proof for me to be fucking tried and process this manner. That my own lawyer did absolutely nothing to try to help or protect or see just the gross fucking injustice that was being done to me. If I had been anything other than in my mindset of leukemia, I would have ran that fucking court up and down, left and right with my arm tied behind my back and had it turned around back on her for wrongful fucking imprisonment, and would have been able to countersue her. And I know this because this wasn't my first time in court that I actually defended a case and won. I've defended a couple of different previous drug cases of friends that I knew I could help and beat the DA when they were trying to pursue with these charges that I was easily able to drop with the stupid loopholes that were in the case. If I hadn't been in my leukemia mindset, I would not have been thrown in jail and had my name taken away from me. And had the judge tell me, and I quote, "Mr. Skelos, you scare me." How the fuck does no background criminal record, no nothing pertaining to any form of aggressiveness, nothing as much as a fucking parking ticket, and to have this woman just literally say, like father, like son, because of what his father did, he's going to do. And for the judge, before sentencing, to say, Mr. Skelis, you scare me. I have no choice but to give you the maximum sentence of 2 years to this charge. For me not to register what the fuck just happened, I thought I was getting out on time served. And now seeing that I'm facing 24 months as my full charge 3 months into this. He goes and he makes this comment, I'm giving you like 760 something days, and I corrected his math and said, no, I think you mean 765 if you're talking about 2 years. Like, it was a smart aleck response because I just had disconnected at that point when I heard the sentencing. And for people to kind of shrug it off and chuckle it off, and for me to walk out understanding now that I had no prior terminal diagnosis. The state had to pick up my medical costs, which was $11,500 fucking dollars a month. Let me say that again. My initial medication cost per month that the state had to mandatorily pick up because my Medicaid was no longer active was $11,500 a month. That lasted for 18 months. We're talking about $250,000 that the state had to pay for me to get my medication sent into the prison, the detention center. It was so expensive, it outdid the previous entire balance and cost for the entire 1,900 inmates' medical costs in one person. It was so astonishingly high that the doctor who was in charge of budgeting emphatically wrote the judge 4 different letters on my behalf, pleading with me to have home detention given all the parameters that I met, and for the judge to deny it time after time after time. For this doctor to sit there and say, bro, I don't understand what the hell is happening here because I've never seen this shit before. You are exactly what a home detention person is perfect for, especially given your condition, and the fact that he knows that we are picking up the bill for this. Like, literally, my budget is fucked for like the next 5-6 years because of your presence in the system. I would then go on to see every single CO who would go on to say the same thing that every other CO said. They would spot me a mile away because I stuck out like a sore thumb. They'd say, what the fuck are you doing here? I'd say, I don't know, you tell me. You'd be smart ass, huh? I'd be like, no, bro, why don't you tell me? Look at my file. I'm being serious. You tell me what the fuck I'm doing here. And for them to pick up the file the next day or the day after and to find me very quickly and to go, holy shit, dude, what the fuck are you doing here? Yeah, I know, man, what the fuck am I doing here? Dude, like, wow, I've never seen anybody get such, and nobody ever fully said it, but they all implied the same fucking thing. I didn't belong there. They knew it. I didn't represent anything that was common in a criminal expression. I was highly articulate, highly altruistic, highly kind and caring, sincere. I was attentive, attuned. I was observant. I was able to articulate and adapt my way of speaking from the criminals of the low to the officers of the high, and impress both sides. 18 months. I spent the majority of it in isolation in the med ward. You have to understand, like, 23-hour lockdown by myself with 1 hour of rec time because I'm in the medical unit because they don't know how to fucking house me because they're afraid if I get TB, if I catch anything, I could die. I spent 18 months in jail. I had my entire life, manlyhood, everything I ever worked for ripped away in the most emasculating way possible. during the worst period of my life, when I was the most vulnerable I ever expressed in front of my wife. And all her intentions were to have me die in jail because I asked her for a divorce, and no one stood up for me, not even myself. Today, I see my time in jail as one of the most profoundly, divinely impactful experiences that changed my life forever that I could have ever had. To say that I left jail and was able to find in my heart a sense of gratitude for what she had done because of what I gained from jail alone is an understatement. What I found in jail and what found me in return would ultimately change my life forever, put me on the path of divine purpose, showed me that all the interactions I had in jail were positive for very specific reasons, allowed me to see what I thought criminals represented and what they actually were right in front of me, to see how perfect strangers that had no earthly reason to do what they did go out of their way to protect me when I simply was speaking truth that rubbed people the wrong way. I mean, I had people protecting me from getting jumped, getting beat up, getting fucked up, getting all sorts of fucking bullshit happen to me. And like, why? Why would this be happening in jail? Why would I be protected in jail, but I'm treated like shit externally? It's part of the lesson. Ultimately, what I'm putting this video out there for is for all the men that have been wrongfully thrown in jail for similar events. I'm sorry. I'm sorry it was so easy for that woman to do what she did to you. And I'm sorry nobody stood up to defend you. I know that if this information gets to the right person, I know that something can happen in which, at the very least, my name can be cleared and her name can be shown in the light that it should be shown. So that way I could gain a sense of justice that I'm so desperately owed. I have no ill will, no vengeance, no retaliation energy to this whatsoever. This is a Hail Mary. This was God telling me, hey man, put your story on YouTube, and if it comes across who it comes across, you'll be met with what you're met with, and things will happen when they happen. And if not, at least you got your story off your chest. You got to speak your own truth. You got to express it in your own sincere manner, and you got to shed some light on what she decided to just drag through the mud and portray as shit. You know, throughout my entire stay, it was very difficult for me to just dismiss her and hate her for what she did to me. I mean, because I really did truly love her. And I can't just flip a switch and decide today she's just going to be my mortal enemy. That was a huge transition for me. And for her to have filed for divorce while I was in jail was just another emasculating attack. And for her to systematically, literally remove every line of help out of my life by destroying every bridge, by lying and spreading this truth and all this bullshit. She made fucking sure that if I didn't die in jail, that if I did get out, I would literally have nothing and no one. And she succeeded. She stole everything from me. Everything. And I was left trying to find a reason for wanting to even live still while having this condition. You have no idea what kind of difficulty I faced being in this new world where I was met with what I thought would be criminals that I had to fear. And at the same time, try not to lose my sense of self and just accept this narration of that's it, I have cancer, it's over. I'm in jail, I'm gonna die in jail, what's the point? To constantly find a way to hold on to whatever I could hold on to, keeping myself afloat. Having the connections and the people that I met in jail become my inspiring reason for surviving and getting past this and seeing what else lies out into the future. These criminals that were just tossed away like shit were the ones that were inspiring me from a place of loyalty, respect, understanding, common sense, ways of handling situations that followed, kind of basic laws of understanding. Even though there were multiple gangs in one pod, there was a hierarchy of how things would be processed and dealt with. It wasn't anarchy and complete chaos like my house was. Here it is, I'm watching criminals act in a way that I've never seen normal people act. And criminals were showing me this. Criminals gave me more respect for who I was and what I presented myself as than anybody in my life that I went to bat for and helped. I was met talking to shot callers of higher standing levels in both Bloods, Crips, fucking the Latin Kings, M13, dude, every freaking type of gang. I was able to adapt and be accepted as a non-conforming element in the pod that never had to conform to any one of them ever, was allowed to remain a free agent basically, but I was also able to interact with every single fucking gang in respect to whatever it was that I was doing or communicating. If you happen to be somebody who was divinely guided to help reverse an atrocity that was forced upon an innocent person, and you have the skill set, the mindset, and the fortitude to accomplish said task, and you are looking for that person, trust me when I say you can't find a more just case to take up, to get what's owed to me. I was diagnosed in 2013. It's 2023. Not only am I still alive, but I'm healthier than ever. So this whole notion of dying in 3 to 5 years melted away when I started putting my own narration, my own mindset, believing what I chose to believe in, not what I was being told to believe in. When I came out homeless, destitute, nothing, how it only took me a matter of weeks and months to be able to put myself in situations where I could start to try to heal myself rather than follow the social norm of having to get a job, do this and do that. I put myself in specific situations to allow the healing process to begin. To say that I've learned from this event is such a joke. If you have any kind of conversation with me past this video, you'll find out for yourself by asking simple questions like, where were you before? Where'd you come from? What happened? Let's just say leukemia was one of two massive health issues that I just completely breezed through. The other one was, like I said, the brain surgery, which for all intents and purposes was repeatedly told to my mother that I would gain 30% at best cognitive function, putting me in the worst of categories. And in the 8 months of being in ICU, leaps and bounds past that limitation. Without any of those doctors ever saying, I don't understand how he's doing this, I don't understand how this is happening, we're just going to chalk it up to dumb luck. Yeah, okay. So, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your willingness to listen to the entire story. I know I'm going well over an hour and 20 minutes right now. This is just a fraction of my life from birth until 42. Fraction. Just so you understand the magnitude of what I've been through and what I know I'm owed. And if you happen to be this person, please contact me. Please, right away. I'll give you any information you need. I will converse with you in any manner, shape, or form. I will do whatever it takes to prove to you everything that I said on this video is 100% true. And if you are out there, I want to say thank you ahead of time for any and all effort you put towards this. I appreciate it. I'm truly grateful for it. Thank you for your time. I hope you guys have a great day, night, whatever time you're watching this. I'm going to go back to my life and start living it in a positive manner for the first time, instead of holding on to this bullshit anymore. Thank you. Peace out.